In the heart of Asia, behind the hum of modern life, something ancient still lingers. This is Ghosts of Asia, where the neon lights don't chase away the shadows, they only make them harder to see. Here we tell the stories whispered between apartment walls, the ones that never make the headlines, the ones that feel too real to be made up. Tales where the past is never truly buried, and the spirits we try to forget find new ways to be remembered. Tonight, we invite you to check in to room 907. A sleek new high-rise in Seoul, white walls, smart locks, quiet hallways, and one room that no one ever seemed to stay in for long, until she moved in. A TikTok creator with a growing audience and a minimalist dream apartment. But the mirrors didn't agree. Behind her, something always moved. Something barefoot. Something in white. And the elevator always stopped on the 9th floor, even when no one pressed it. Some say spirits are drawn to reflection. Others say they get stuck in routines they can't escape. Either way, she's still riding that elevator. Room 907, the woman who always checked in alone. Let's begin. Seoul never truly sleeps. It hums, it flickers, it blinks with a million glassy eyes that watch and forget, record and delete. But sometimes, a building remembers. Lux View Apartments stood like a proud monument of modern wealth in the Gangnam district, steel bones and glass skin, overlooking the Han River. It was new, polished, and largely unbothered, the kind of place where tenants came with money, but not history. Room 907 had no tenant, not officially. When the complex first opened, Room 907 had been set aside for renovations, a leak in the ceiling from rushed construction, they said, a temporary matter. Yet months passed, and while units above and below glowed with evening lives and idle television screens, 907 remained dark. Mr. Choi, the night security guard, noticed it first. Not out of suspicion, just routine. The monitors flickered across a grid of grayscale rooms and silent corridors. His job was simple. Sit, watch, press nothing unless you absolutely had to. But over the course of 3 weeks, something strange kept surfacing. Motion. On the 9th floor, always between 2:11 and 2:17 a.m. He rewound the footage. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time it showed the same thing. The elevator doors would open. A woman would step out, alone, barefoot, wearing what looked like a hospital gown. She had long black hair and walked with a stillness that felt studied. She never looked at the camera. She would walk toward 907, and then nothing. No record of her entering, no record of her leaving. Choi blinked at the monitor. His eyes were tired, but not failing. He noted the timestamp and printed the frame. A still shot of the woman standing in the elevator, head bowed slightly. Odd, but nothing criminal. He logged it anyway, just to be thorough. The next night, he stayed awake through the hours of dead air. The building, as usual, was quiet, clean, safe. Then, ding! The elevator on the feed moved. He looked up. It was 2:13 a.m. She was back. Same gown, same silence, same pattern. But this time, something was off. In the elevator, the woman stood perfectly still, but in the mirror behind her, she twitched. Her head jerked in a small, rapid motion, a stutter in the reflection, and her lips moved, murmuring, but only in the mirror. Choi's skin crawled. He hit the record button. The next morning, he reported it to management. The building supervisor, Mr. Kang, laughed politely. Some kind of prank, a reflection error, maybe. YouTube ghost hunters do that sort of thing. She's barefoot, and we don't have anyone staying in 907. Not yet? The listing just went up. Still, Choi hesitated. Maybe check the elevator cameras. Kang sighed and agreed, mostly to end the conversation. He promised to review the footage. Choi never heard back. That weekend, Choi stayed late again. This time, he printed the log and compared the elevator's internal camera to the external hallway feed. A strange thing. On the hallway feed, she exits the elevator and walks to 907. But on the internal elevator feed, she never moves. She's still inside, still standing, and her reflection is gone. It wasn't a glitch. It was a pattern. Choi began asking around, discreetly. One of the cleaning ladies, an older woman named Min Ji, refused to step on the 9th floor. She'd told her supervisor the floor felt wrong. When pressed, she whispered something about hearing water dripping, like a leak, but no puddles ever appeared, no mold, no smell, just the noise. Choi asked Kang again if anyone had complained. Kang shrugged. New building, pipe shift, people get paranoid. That night, Choi sat in the break room with a stale sandwich and eyes glued to the corner monitor. At 2:14 a.m., the elevator chimed. She appeared. This time, she looked straight at the camera and smiled. But her reflection didn't. Choi stumbled back. His chair screeched across the linoleum. He reviewed the footage 5 times. Each replay was the same. Her smile was small, subtle, the kind of smile that knows something you don't. But the mirror showed her face flat, emotionless, lips unmoved. He printed that frame too and slid it into a manila folder he kept hidden in his locker. By now he knew better not to bring it up again. The last time he tried, Kang hinted at early retirement. Don't let your imagination get the better of you, Mr. Choi. So he kept quiet. But every night, without fail, the pattern repeated. Enter, ascend, exit, vanish. Each time at the same minute, each time in silence, each time alone. Until the 4th Sunday. That's when something changed. The elevator opened, but this time she wasn't there. Instead, the mirror was fogged, just a little, like someone had breathed on it. Choi leaned closer to the screen. As the elevator doors began to close, a single handprint appeared on the glass. It dragged downward slowly, deliberately, and then the screen went black. He sat there for hours, unwilling to leave his post. At dawn, the camera feed returned to normal. No sign of the fog, no handprint, nothing to prove what he'd seen. Choi took the manila folder from his locker and added one final note. Room 907 should not be occupied. He sealed the folder and tucked it deep beneath the security terminal drawer. By then, the leasing office had already made a mistake. Someone was moving in, and room 907 was waiting. Some things don't disappear. They just move sideways into places we don't look, like the corner of a mirror or the static between seconds. The next night, Mr. Choi didn't eat dinner, didn't sip his barley tea, didn't scroll his news app or text his daughter goodnight. He just sat, waiting. The elevator monitor blinked at him like a tired eye. 2:12 a.m. Still, silent, nothing. Then, 2:13. Ding. The elevator doors slid open. She was back. Same woman, same white gown, same dragging footsteps, barefoot, hair straight and damp-looking, like it hadn't dried in years. But tonight, she wasn't alone. Not exactly. Choi leaned forward, eyes darting between the two feeds. Camera 1, hallway, fixed on the elevator exterior. Camera 2, inside the elevator, facing her. In camera 1, she stepped out and walked toward room 907. But in camera 2, she didn't move. She was still standing inside, her arms slack at her sides, her expression blank, a shell. And in the mirror behind her, she moved, twitching, nodding to something, then speaking. Choi froze. There was no sound. These were security feeds, silent and sterile. But he could see it. Her mouth formed syllables, again and again. Mouth, move, whisper, stop. Mouth, move, whisper, stop. But only in the reflection. In the real version of her, nothing moved. No mouth, no twitch. He scribbled a note in his logbook, fingers shaking. Reflection is alive, real is frozen, feels reversed. Then he noticed something else. In the mirror, her mouth opened wider. Too wide, unnaturally so. A dark shape peeked from her throat, like a thread. A noose? The video feed glitched just for a second. Pixels flickered, static burst across the screen. When it cleared, she was gone. No exit recorded, no arrival on another floor. Just silence. The elevator doors shut, and the system reset. Choi leaned back, sweat on his palms. He looked at the reflection of himself in the office window. The glow from the screen made his eyes hollow. For a second, he thought his own reflection didn't blink when he did. He turned away quickly. The next morning, he tried to show Kang again. He pulled the file, clicked through the video archive. Nothing. The feed had been overwritten. "There's nothing here," Kang said, bored. "Just static." "It was clear last night. She was there. The reflection." "Choi, if you need a break, just take one. We've had no Canon complaints. Everything is fine." Choi opened his mouth, then closed it again. That evening, he returned with a USB drive. He copied the feed manually. He even recorded a screen capture with his phone just in case. He had proof, but something still nagged at him. He loaded the video into a free editing app just to brighten the frame, maybe get a better look at her face. He paused the footage at 2:14:07, right as the woman stepped out. Her face was still turned away. But the mirror? The mirror version was facing the camera, and she was smiling again. That same slow, knowing smile. He brightened the contrast. Behind the mirrored woman, in the upper corner of the elevator, something flickered. Another figure. blurred, translucent, small, like a second face hovering behind hers, eyes open, watching. Choi shut the laptop and walked to the restroom. He splashed water on his face, stared into the mirror. Nothing moved. Then, a single line of water trickled down the inside of the glass. He wiped it. His fingers came away dry. That night, he went home early, didn't tell anyone, didn't log it. But the next morning, room 907 was officially marked as leased. The new tenant would move in by week's end, and Mr. Choi knew, in the cold hollow of his chest, that he would see her again. In the elevator, in the mirror, where things move, even when no one's there.
Every building has one, a room where the lights flicker more often, where the air feels heavier, a room that waits. Room 907 had been waiting for a long time. Her name was Yoon Ha-eun, 27, new to Seoul, new to adulthood if she was honest, fresh out of a corporate burnout spiral, looking for something quieter, simpler, less fluorescent, more neutral tones, minimalist, curated. She'd been on the wait list for LuxView for months. She didn't expect to get a unit, especially not one this high up. The email came without fanfare. Dear Miss Yoon, you have been assigned Unit 907. Please confirm your move-in date. She clicked accept without hesitation. When she arrived, the lobby gleamed. The walls were marble. The concierge smiled. The security was invisible, but present. It felt safe. Safe in the way only expensive things do. As she rode the elevator up to the 9th floor for the first time, she noticed a small smear on the mirror, like someone's thumb had dragged downward. She wiped it with her sleeve, didn't think much of it. She found 907 at the far end of the hallway. The lights above it flickered once as she approached, then steadied. Her fingerprint unlocked the door. Inside was airless silence. The apartment was immaculate. White walls, light wood flooring. A perfect square of sunlight from the balcony touched the edge of the built-in sofa. She smiled. This was going to look amazing on TikTok. Over the next few days, Ha-eun began to settle in. She filmed everything, unboxing candles, stacking linen bed sheets, panning across empty countertops with soft ambient music. Her content leaned into stillness, clean lines, muted tones, peaceful captions. Her followers noticed. Her engagement climbed. But she noticed something else. The first night she slept in 907, she woke up at 2:17 a.m. She didn't know why. No noise, no dream, just awake. She checked her phone. No notifications. She rolled over. As she adjusted her pillow, her eyes caught something in the vanity mirror across the room. A shape, brief, gone. She blinked. The room was empty, just her reflection, and behind her, nothing. She laughed nervously, getting jumpy. The next day, she filmed a morning routine video, poured tea, opened curtains, spun slowly in her beige pajamas, smiling to the lens. She uploaded it with the caption, "Golden hour in my new home, pigeons and sparkles, #minimalist life, #soft aesthetic." An hour later, the comments began. "Who's standing behind you? Anyone else see that blur in the mirror? Bro, there's literally someone at 013 behind her shoulder." She watched the clip again. At 013, Just before she twirled toward the window, her reflection in the wall mirror hesitated, lagged, and then a flicker, a faint smudge behind her, like someone moving, too fast to see clearly. She paused, zoomed, rewound. There was something. Not a person exactly, but not nothing. She laughed nervously and pinned a top comment. "Ha ha, OMG, glitch in the mirror, hashtag ghost in the algorithm." Her followers ate it up. The video trended for a few hours. She gained 500 new fans. The next morning, someone DM'd her a screen recording. "Watch with headphones, play it backwards." She did. At the exact moment the mirror flickers, a whisper plays. Low, feminine, almost like breath against glass. "I never checked out." She dropped her phone. The screen cracked against the tile. She didn't sleep that night. The following day, she went downstairs to the leasing office. A young agent named Sujin smiled from behind the desk. "Hi, how's everything in 907? "Fine. Just wondering, was anyone living there before me?" Sujin checked her screen. "Let me see. Huh, that's strange. What is?" She clicked again. "This file says the unit's been under maintenance since the building opened. But that can't be right. You're in there now." "So I'm the first?" "I guess so. Lucky you. 9th floor units are usually hard to get." Haun smiled thinly. She thanked her and walked back to the elevator. The mirror inside had been cleaned. No smear, no dust. But her reflection didn't feel like hers anymore. As the doors closed, her reflection blinked a half-second late. Just enough to notice, just enough to doubt. And from that night on, room 907 began to feel less like a home and more like a place someone else had left behind, but never fully left.
A haunting doesn't always begin with screams. Sometimes it begins with symmetry, with clean lines, curated silence, and something you don't remember placing, moving. The problem with living alone is this: you begin to wonder if it's the walls shifting or you. By the second week, Hyun's videos had taken on a rhythm, soft music, delicate framing. She filmed herself brewing tea, lighting a candle, stretching in sunlight. But her comments were no longer about her routine. They were about her mirrors. "Why does your reflection blink after you? You look really off at 102, like your face is wrong. That mirror girl is not you. I don't care what anyone says." Hyun laughed at first, called it engagement bait. But late at night, she played the videos back, frame by frame. Paused, zoomed, and it was off. Subtle, but wrong. In one clip, she walks past her full-length mirror. The real Hyun continues forward, but her reflection lingers, half a beat too long, head still turned toward the camera. She felt it in her stomach, a twist, like vertigo with no motion. She stopped filming for a few days, turned all the mirrors around, taped craft paper over them like blackout curtains. Even the glossy backsplash in her kitchen got covered. For a moment, the silence in 907 felt still. Not peaceful, just paused. Then, the tapping began. It came from the mirror in the elevator. She wasn't recording. She wasn't even thinking about ghosts. She was heading to the convenience store. Simple, normal. Elevator to lobby, press L, ride down. But at floor 6, the elevator stopped. The lights dimmed for a blink, and something tapped from inside the mirror. Not a knock, not a bang,
A soft, deliberate tap, 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 as though someone inside was mimicking the sound of fingers. She stepped back. No one was in the elevator with her, just her reflection. And then, the lights flickered, and in the mirror, her reflection smiled, even though she hadn't. She pressed the close doors button over and over, hands shaking. When the elevator finally moved again, it skipped the lobby, took her to floor 9. The doors opened, hallway empty. Her door stood at the end, slightly ajar. She hadn't left it open, she was sure. She crept down the hall, holding her breath like it might escape her too early. Pushed the door with her foot. The lights inside were already on. The paper covering her bedroom mirror was torn down. Not ripped, not shredded. Unpeeled, clean, neat, like someone had removed it with care. She didn't film anything that night. Instead, she sat on her mattress, knees hugged to her chest, scrolling through old videos. There were dozens she never posted. She found one she barely remembered recording, a test shot in the bathroom mirror. No music, just her brushing her hair, humming softly. At first, it looked fine. But then she noticed the reflection's lips weren't moving. It wasn't humming. It wasn't even blinking. And when she turned her head, the reflection stayed still, facing forward, eyes fixed on the camera. She slammed her laptop shut. Silence swallowed her. She pulled her blanket over her head like a child, suddenly terrified of seeing herself. The next morning, her pinned TikTok had over 100,000 views. She didn't remember pinning it. The caption read, "She's starting to notice me," smiley face. She scrolled through her page. Her most recent videos, ones she never posted, were live. Footage of her brushing her hair, clipping her nails, sitting on her bed still as a corpse. Comments flooded in. Why does she never blink? Did anyone else see her reflection move before she did? This account is cursed. She opened her camera roll. The clips were all there, time-stamped, watermarked, edited, perfectly synced. She hadn't made them. She hadn't even touched her phone that night. She walked to the bathroom, faced the mirror. Her reflection stared back. But the longer she looked, the more she doubted. Because her reflection wasn't scared. It wasn't breathing heavily. And it was smiling. Hyun slapped the mirror hard. The sound echoed through the apartment. Her palm stung. But the smile remained, even after her real face had gone pale. She covered all the mirrors again, taped the camera lens on her phone, logged out of her accounts. Still, the next morning, her profile updated. Live in room 907, minimalist. I'm never alone, smiley face. She opened her front camera to check her face. The screen blinked. And for a single frame, just one, her face wasn't her face. It was older, sunken-eyed, and wearing a white hospital gown. She screamed, but the phone was already dead, battery full, but lifeless. And far away, down in the security office, Mr. Choi watched the feed. At 2:14 a.m., the elevator doors opened. There she was. Not Hyun, the other woman. Hospital gown, barefoot. Except tonight, she wasn't alone. There were two figures in the elevator. The second was flickering, like static, like she hadn't quite decided which reflection to wear. Elevators were never meant to linger. They rise, they fall, they forget. But sometimes they remember, especially when something rides them not to reach a floor, but to replay a death. The elevator stopped answering her calls. At first, Ha-eun thought it was a glitch. She'd pressed the lobby button, but the doors wouldn't close. Then, without warning, it would ascend instead, always to the 9th floor, even when she was already on it. One afternoon, after a grocery run, she stepped into the elevator carrying 2 bags. The doors shut. She pressed L. The button lit, then flicked off. The elevator did not move. The lights inside dimmed slightly. The fan turned off. A hush filled the space. And then the mirror began to fog, slow, from the bottom corner, as if someone inside the glass had exhaled. She stared, froze. A single word appeared, traced in condensation from the other side. Stay. The elevator dinged. Doors opened. She was on the 9th floor again. Her groceries spilled across the hallway. Eggs cracked. Apples rolled. She didn't pick them up. She just stood there, staring at the mirror. Her reflection was still inside. That night, she posted a video. Not because she wanted to, because her hands moved on their own, like something was waiting to be seen. She filmed herself walking into the elevator, holding the camera up, pressing L, smiling stiffly. The video played normally until the end. Then, as the doors closed, her reflection remained visible, still standing, even as the real Ha-eun turned away. It blinked once, tilted its head, and mouthed something. She looped it 10 times before recognizing the word. Again. The next morning, she set an old analog camera outside the elevator, a tripod, a timed shot. She wanted to see what it saw. When she developed the photo, it showed her walking in, but something else stood behind her. Not in focus, just an outline. Tall, white, barefoot. She sent the photo to a friend, just one, no caption. The reply came 2 minutes later. Is this a prank? You know the girl in white is from that story, right? That TikTok ghost girl? They say she appears in reflections if you film too much in a new place. Ha-eun stared at her phone. There was a link, a Reddit thread, r/Seoul haunts, a post titled, "Anyone ever heard of the woman who never left the elevator?" She clicked. The thread was only a few weeks old, but the details were familiar. New high-rise in Gangnam, motion sensors triggered around 2:14 a.m. A barefoot woman in a white gown, always headed to the 9th floor, only visible on footage, never in person. Mirrors don't lie, but they also don't agree. Ha-eun scrolled down. One comment chilled her blood. My cousin lived there for a month. She started filming mirror dances. The footage got weird. Faces moved wrong. Doors didn't lead where they should. She moved out, said she didn't like who she was becoming. No one's supposed to live in 907. Ha-eun slammed her laptop shut, paced. She grabbed tape, sheets, covered every surface, even unplugged her phone. But the elevator kept calling. Every time she left the apartment, it was waiting. And no matter which button she pressed, it went to 9. One night, after crying in bed for hours, she tried something different. She stood in front of the mirror in the lobby elevator, phone in hand, camera off, eyes fixed at her reflection. And she asked, "What do you want?" The mirror fogged. She didn't breathe. The letters appeared slowly, like a finger tracing ice. To finish. She gasped, ran back to her unit, locked the door, turned all the lights on. The words stayed with her all night. Finish what? Finish who? At 2:14 a.m., her bedroom lights dimmed on their own. Her phone, even powered off, turned on by itself. A video began to play. It was her, in the elevator, wearing her clothes, holding her bag. But she hadn't left that night. The timestamp read 2:11 a.m. The video ended with the doors closing, but her reflection was still in view. And in the final frame, the reflection was no longer her. The face was older, gaunt, mouth stretched, eyes empty, but smiling. The next day, the elevator refused to take her anywhere else. She called the front desk. "No issues on our end," said the concierge. "Are you sure you're not pressing the wrong button?" "I'm not pressing anything," Haun whispered. Later, Mr. Troy reviewed the logs again. He watched the footage. Haun entered the elevator on floor 1. She pressed 7, but the system rerouted, took her to 9. And then, the camera glitched. For 3 full seconds, the footage was corrupted. When it resumed, the elevator was empty, but the mirror still showed a figure, standing, waiting, facing the door, looping. Like always, not all hauntings come from outside. Some are stitched into the walls, others into you. And when something is unfinished, it finds a mirror, it finds a voice, and it whispers, "I never checked out." Haeun didn't leave room 907 for 3 days. She kept the lights on, didn't sleep, didn't eat. Her phone rang once. She didn't answer. The screen had a strange glow to it, as if the light behind it was breathing. She tried recording herself again. She wanted proof. She filmed a short clip. No music, just her speaking. "Hi, my name is Yoon Haeun. I'm still here. I'm okay. I'm alone." When she watched the clip, it was wrong. Her lips moved out of sync. Her voice sounded deeper. At the 14-second mark, her mouth stopped, but the voice continued. "I never checked out." She hadn't said that. She swore she hadn't said that. She replayed it again and again. Each time the whisper was clearer, almost mournful, almost proud. The voice wasn't just in her videos. She began hearing it in her sleep, or in the hours when she should have been sleeping. Faint, curling around the corners of her apartment like incense smoke. "I never checked out." Sometimes behind the bathroom door, sometimes from the faucet, sometimes from the elevator mirror, and worst of all, sometimes from inside the walls. She called the leasing office. Soo-jin picked up. "Miss Yoon, you sound tired." "There's someone else in here," Haeun said flatly. "You mean a break-in?" "No, I mean she's not alive." Silence. "Room 907, Haeun whispered. "It wasn't supposed to be leased." "I'm sorry, there's nothing. Please check the history, please."
Sujin paused. Her voice dropped. I shouldn't say this, but 907 was listed as off-market. Internal error. I don't know why it was offered. Has anyone lived here before me? No official record, but... Sujin trailed off. Hyun leaned in. But what? There was a rumor about a woman who worked at the clinic that stood here before they built Lux View. A nurse, I think. The building was a psychiatric hospital. Room 907 was the staff's overnight ward. Hyun felt her throat go dry. What happened to her? Sujin hesitated again. I shouldn't say this, but she was found hanging in a utility closet, alone. Hyun closed her eyes. And her name? I don't know. I need to know. I'm sorry. I really shouldn't even be talking about this. The call ended. Hyun stayed on her floor the entire day. She didn't dare step into the elevator. She kept hearing the ding, but the doors never opened. Not for her. That night, she scrolled through the TikTok comments on her last accidental upload. One user had stitched her video and played it in reverse. In the caption, it said, "This is not an editing glitch. Her mirror self speaks first, her real self follows." She played it. Reversed audio, grainy footage. At exactly 2:14, the reflection moved its mouth before the real Hyun did. Then came the whisper, backwards, but still unmistakable. I never checked out. She searched the Lux View Psychiatric Hospital. Nothing. She searched hospital before Lux View Gangnam. One result, an old article buried deep. Abandoned psychiatric ward to be demolished after fire. A grainy black and white photo of a building wrapped in tarps. A single line stood out. Fire contained, one casualty. Nurse Shin Mi-suk found deceased in room 907. Hyun stared at the name, read it over and over again. Shin Mi-suk. She typed it into TikTok. One result. A blurry clip, 10 seconds long. A girl in an elevator filming herself dancing. She stops, looks to the side. Her face drops. She screams. The video cuts off. Caption: My cousin disappeared after posting this. Her last message just said, "Don't look in the mirror at 2:14. That night, Hyun waited. She set her phone on the sink, front camera facing the mirror. She turned off all the lights, sat on the edge of the bathtub, and waited. 2:10, 2:11, 2:12. Her breath grew cold. 2:13. The lights flickered. The mirror began to fog, not from her, but from inside the glass. She hit record. The reflection sharpened. The mirror grew deeper, as though it were a hallway. And then, Hyun appeared. Hospital gown, barefoot, head bowed, face unseen. She stepped into view from inside the mirror and whispered, "I never checked out." The screen froze, then fractured, then went dark. Hyun dropped the phone, backed into the corner of the bathroom. The woman in the mirror raised her head, eyes white, neck bruised, rope marks vivid and fresh. But her mouth was smiling. And in that moment, Hyun understood. The spirit wasn't just replaying her death. She was looking for a replacement, someone to loop it for her,
someone to finish the routine. Enter, ascend, arrive, alone, check in, never leave. At 2:17 a.m., the lights came back on. The mirror was empty. Her phone powered off again. The last frame on screen was a still image, Hyun's face, but with white eyes. She curled into the corner, rocked back and forth, whispered to herself over and over, "I'm not her, I'm not her, I'm not her." But somewhere inside her, a voice was already forming, low, raspy, and tired of waiting. "Then who are you?"
The dead don't haunt buildings. They haunt the silence we build over them. You can tear down a wall, you can pave over a grave, but if the soul wasn't released, it stays, waiting, looping, beneath the concrete. Hyun left the building for the first time in days. She didn't take the elevator. She took the stairs, 9 floors down, every turn sharp, every corner dark, but still safer than the mirror box waiting at the center of the building. She didn't look at any reflections, not her phone, not windows, not the silver handrails. She kept her eyes low on the concrete. The library was old, hidden, a place tucked beneath the buzz of modern Seoul, where the air still smelled faintly of paper and dust. She sat in a corner terminal and searched everything she could. Shin Mi-suk, Luxview Construction, Gangnam Psychiatric Fire. Most queries led nowhere, but after hours of digging, she found an archived document. Proposed demolition of Jungjin Psychiatric Rehabilitation Facility, March 2003. Notes: facility closed following allegations of mistreatment and staff suicides. Final casualty, nurse Shin Mi-suk, found hanged in room 907. No family claimed the body. Cremated. Ashes uncollected. Hyun whispered the name under her breath. Shin Mi-suk. Something about saying it aloud made her throat tighten. She kept digging. A building permit, blueprints, an old protest article from 2005. Don't build on curses, local monk warns. Site of psychiatric ward should be spiritually cleansed before development. There was an image, a man in robes standing before the half-demolished hospital. In the background, exposed foundation, crumbling walls, a rusted room number, 907. Below it, faint lettering was still visible on the plaster. Isolation ward. Her heart pounded. This wasn't just a death, this was entrapment. Room 907 hadn't been repurposed, it had been preserved. A spiritual fracture, built over and renamed. The foundation still held the imprint. Mi-suk hadn't checked out because no one had let her go. She printed every file she could, tucked the pages into a plastic binder, didn't stop until her eyes blurred. When she finally stood to leave, it was dusk. The sky outside had turned the color of bruised glass. She took the stairs down, avoided her reflection in the glass doors, but in her peripheral vision, she could swear something was walking beside her. She stopped at a temple on the way home, a small roadside shrine. Burnt incense curled like whispers into the wind. An old monk sat behind the lattice door. She bowed and placed her binder in front of him.
"I think I'm being haunted," she said. He didn't speak. He just opened the folder. His eyes scanned the records. When he reached the name Shin Mi-suk, he paused. "This soul is bound," he said quietly. She died with her name still echoing in her mouth. No rites were performed, no passage granted. "Can she be freed?" asked Hyun. He nodded slowly, "But not without risk." "Why?" "Because she's not just lingering, she's looping. A spirit that loops doesn't know she's dead." He turned the folder toward Hyun. "She needs a witness, a vessel, someone to complete her pattern." Hyun felt her stomach drop. "She thinks it's me." The monk nodded again. "She may already be inside you." He gave her a talisman, not fancy, just thread, bone, and salt, wrapped tight in red cloth. "Sleep with this," he said, "and when you dream, listen, but don't speak." Hyun took it with trembling hands. That night, she laid it on her chest. The room was cold. She drifted to sleep as the air around her slowed. And in her dream, she stood in the elevator, alone, except she wasn't. Behind her, in the mirrored walls, Shin Mi-suk stood, neck bruised, eyes soft. But this time, she was crying. She turned to face Hyun. Her mouth opened, but no sound came, only breath, only the shape of words. "Please, finish it." Hyun woke up, gasping. The talisman had burned a mark into her skin, but the whisper stayed with her. Finish what? Her death? Her escape? Or her replacement? The next morning, she stood before the elevator. For the first time in days, she pressed the button. The doors opened. The mirror was clean. Too clean. She stepped inside, looked into her reflection, and said, "I'm going to find out what you want." The elevator didn't move, but the reflection smiled. And for a moment, so did she. Not out of peace, but because the line between them was beginning to fade, and part of her was starting to feel at home.
Glass remembers. Mirrors aren't empty. They are doors that never quite close. And some spirits don't knock. They wait for you to look. And when you do, they're already behind you. Hyun removed every mirror in the apartment. She covered the bathroom wall with cardboard, flipped over the vanity, taped black cloth across the kitchen backsplash. But glass is everywhere. The microwave, the oven door, the phone screen, even the darkened window at night, when the city lights dim just enough to turn the glass into a reflection. She stopped turning on her phone, only used it during the day in direct light. But even then, she caught glimpses, a shift in her posture, a second head, a faint outline of someone standing just behind her. One morning, she turned on the bathroom tap. The mirror was covered, yes, but the water reflected everything. She saw her face in the pool forming in the sink, except her eyes were white. She turned the tap off immediately. The reflection smiled. By then, she wasn't filming anymore, but new videos kept posting. Clips of her brushing her teeth, sitting silently, breathing, sometimes not breathing. Each one darker, each one more wrong. Comments flooded in.
This isn't performance art anymore. You okay? Her eyes look dead in this one. She's starting to look like the woman in the elevator rumor. The account name had changed too. She didn't change it. At 9:07 never left. One night, unable to bear it, she deleted the app, uninstalled the camera. But hours later, her phone turned back on by itself. A live stream had begun. Front camera, facing the mirror above her bed, even though she'd covered it. The reflection was live, and the woman in the mirror wasn't her. The video ended with the screen glitching and a final frame showing the words inverted in glass, "She's here." The next day, she found a visitor standing outside her door. It was Mr. Choi. He looked pale, older, and visibly afraid. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "I retired last week." "Why did you come?" Howen asked. He held up a USB drive. "I saved the elevator footage before they wiped it. I needed you to see something." They sat in silence while she played the files. Each night, 2:14 a.m. Elevator dings, woman enters. Always barefoot, always silent. But in the newest clip, something changed. The woman looked up, faced the camera directly, and mouthed something. Choi paused the frame. "Can you read that?" he asked. Howen stared at the screen. It wasn't Mi-suk anymore. It was her face. Mouth forming a whisper, "Help me." Choi looked sick. "She's copying you," he said. "Becoming you." Howen turned away from the screen. "I think she already has." She told him everything about the old hospital, the cremated ashes, the forgotten rites. Choi listened, nodding slowly. He said, "There's something else, something I never told anyone." He reached into his coat and pulled out an old printed photo. A CCTV frame from years ago, black and white, grainy. It showed a girl in the elevator, standing with her back turned. The timestamp read 2011. He said she was the first one, first girl assigned to room 907 by mistake. She vanished, no trace. The girl in the photo looked eerily familiar. Same long hair, same slight posture. It could have been Mi-suk, but it wasn't. It could have been Haun, but it wasn't. It was someone in between. Choi whispered, "I think the mirror doesn't just reflect. I think it records, holds on to faces, echoes." Of what? Of people who checked in and never left. That night, Howen stood in front of her darkened window. The city beyond looked blurred, almost like a dream she had woken into, not from. Her reflection stared back, calm, still. But then, the window fogged. From the inside, she didn't breathe. Letters began to form in the condensation. "Get out." She backed away, turned on the light, but in every reflective surface, every spoon, every shadowed tile, every drop of water, her reflection was already looking, not mirroring, just watching. She opened her closet. Inside, behind a forgotten panel, she found a small, rusted plate. Stamped into the metal, 907, Isolation Ward. And underneath it, scratched into the wood, "Let me go." The spirit wasn't trying to harm her. It was trying to be her, to finish its loop through someone still breathing. And every reflection was an invitation, a test, to see how much of herself Haun would give away before she realized she wasn't alone in her own body anymore.
Possession doesn't always begin with a scream. Sometimes it begins with silence, the kind that echoes after your name is called and you don't answer, because you've forgotten who you are and something else remembers. The whispering never stopped, not even in daylight. It no longer came from the elevator, or the mirror, or the tap. Now it came from inside her ears, like someone breathing too close to her thoughts. Haun began forgetting simple things, her passwords, the name of her old workplace, her own birthday. Once, while brushing her hair, she stared into her reflection and whispered, "What's your name again?" The voice that answered back wasn't hers. Shin Mi Suk. She stopped filming, or tried to, but somehow new clips still appeared on her page. She hadn't opened TikTok in days, but notifications flooded in. At 9:07 Never Left has gone live. The videos were darker now, almost ritualistic. Black screens, choppy breathing, a woman brushing her hair in reverse, always at 2:14 a.m. Comments swelled like static. Who is she talking to? This feels cursed. She blinked with one eye first. Anyone else see that? And the most liked comment on every video, "She's not alone in there." She tried to explain, to post a message. "This isn't me, I need help." But the post never saved. Instead, her account bio changed itself. "I'm always with her." Haun barely recognized herself in the mirror anymore. She started catching delays. When she turned her head, the reflection followed, but slower. Once, she caught her mirrored self smiling, even though her real face was stone cold. She smashed the mirror with a mug. Glass shards scattered across the bathroom floor. She bled, didn't feel it. She looked down at the pieces. They still showed her face, except one shard, one fragment, showed Misuk's. That night, Haun woke to a sound, her own voice whispering from her phone. The screen was off, but the voice was clear. "Let me finish it." She recorded herself sleeping. She wanted proof. The next morning, she played the footage. At 2:14 a.m., her body sat upright, but her eyes were still closed. She stood, walked to the wall, drew something in ink, a symbol, circular, looping, with a single vertical line through the center. Underneath, she wrote 9:07. She didn't remember doing any of it. The symbol was still there in the morning, but it wasn't ink. It was carved. Later that day, she tried to FaceTime her sister. The screen froze. Her sister never picked up, but called back an hour later. "Don't ever do that again," she said. "Do what? That thing with your face." Haun was silent. "What thing? You just stared at me, didn't blink, didn't talk, and your mouth was moving, but not to your words, like someone was whispering through you." She hung up, shaking. She opened her front camera, paused, stared. Then slowly,
Her reflection began to cry, even though her face was dry. The tears fell in the mirror only, and the lips whispered, "I never checked out." Mr. Choi called her that evening. "I found something," he said, "a record that was buried." He came to the apartment clutching a brown envelope. Inside, an old admission slip, water-damaged, burnt around the edges. The patient's name, Shin Mi-suk. The reason for admission, schizophrenic dissociation. Subject claims to see herself standing outside her own body. "She was never sick," Ha-eun said, voice hollow. "They thought she was crazy, but she was just haunted." Choi nodded slowly. She said her reflection whispered to her. They sat in silence. Then Choi spoke again. "You know what dissociation means, don't you?" Ha-eun didn't answer. Choi leaned forward. "It means you're no longer sure who you are." That night, her dreams stopped being dreams. They became replays. Elevator doors, floor 9, room 907. Open, close, hang, breathe, whisper. She began to forget which version she was. The girl filming herself, the girl who moved in, or the woman who never left. And all around her, the surfaces whispered. The kettle, the phone, the water in her glass. Soft, steady echoing words. She checked in. She arrived alone. She never left. Ha-eun looked into the broken mirror again. The cracks had shifted. They formed a doorway now, and inside it, someone was waiting. Someone with her face. Every haunted room has a list of guests, of those who arrived and disappeared. Some left quietly, some were never found, but they all shared one thing. They stayed in room 907. The security office was quiet. Mr. Choi sat alone, long after hours, lit only by the soft glow of outdated monitors and a single flickering desk lamp. He'd been watching old footage for days, archived clips, rerouted files, files they were supposed to erase, but he kept them, not out of curiosity, out of guilt. He opened a file dated March 3, 2015. A woman in her 20s stepped into the elevator. Big headphones, grocery bags. She pressed 9. The ride was normal, until the moment the doors opened. She stepped out, but her reflection didn't follow. It stayed inside the mirror, still, breathing. That woman never submitted a forwarding address. Her apartment was cleared out 3 weeks later. He watched another file. October 2017. Teenage boy, college hoodie. Stayed only 5 nights. On the 6th night, he entered the elevator at 2:13 a.m. The camera glitched. When it came back, he was gone. The building marked him as a lease cancellation. But Choi remembered the mother who came with police, the look on her face when they opened the empty unit. He made a list. Room 907, resident Sun-ji, March 2015, missing. Resident Lee Hyun-woo, October 2017, disappeared. Resident Un-kyung, December 2019, found comatose in the hallway. Guest, unknown female, filmed elevator footage, account deleted. Current, Yoon Ha-un. He stared at the paper. All of them had something in common. They either filmed themselves or were seen in the elevator at exactly 2:14 a.m. Meanwhile, Ha-un had stopped speaking aloud. There was no need to. The whispers in her head spoke for her now. She wandered the apartment aimlessly, rearranging furniture, facing chairs toward blank walls, stacking books in a spiral, filling the sink, then draining it again, watching the ripples, waiting. She heard a knock one evening, soft, 3 times. Not on the door, on the mirror. The mirror was still shattered, but the pieces had begun to settle, arranging themselves on the floor like a puzzle, forming her face, but with someone else's smile. She sat in the elevator for hours. No destination, just up, down, up, down. She tried pressing other floors, but the elevator always went to 9. She stopped resisting. Sometimes the doors would open and the hallway would be different. Dimmer, longer, peeling paint, and a wet smell like antiseptic and burned paper. It didn't look like Luxview anymore. It looked like a hospital, old, abandoned. One night, she stepped out into that hallway. Her feet felt colder. The light above her flickered, red, then white. A voice echoed through the empty corridor. "Miss Shin, please return to your room." She turned. No one was there. She looked down at her hand, a patient bracelet. Her name printed clearly, Shin Misuk. When she snapped awake, she was back in 907, but the bracelet was still on her wrist. Choi called the building supervisor the next morning. He demanded access to old construction files. "Do you remember who leased 907 in 2011? He asked. The supervisor chuckled. "Should have been vacant. That unit wasn't finished back then." "But there was someone in there." The man shrugged. "If there was, they weren't on paper." Choi narrowed his eyes. "You ever think about that floor? What do you mean? Why is 9 so empty?" The man paused, then whispered, "They say odd floors trap spirits. The 9th is the ghost floor in Korean lore." Ha-un started dreaming of stairs, downward ones, endless. She walked them each night in her sleep, sometimes barefoot, sometimes not herself. Sometimes she was watching herself from above, as if she were the reflection. And always at the bottom of the stairs was a door labeled 907 Isolation. One day she tried to leave the building, really leave. She packed a bag, took the stairs, opened the front door, and was back in the elevator. The door shut behind her. No matter where she went, the building brought her back. Not the city, not the neighborhood, just the room, room 907. As if her lease was no longer a contract, but a sentence. She looked into the security cam one night, faced it directly, and smiled. The same slow, curved, oft-timed smile Choi had seen in every tape. He marked the timestamp, 2:14 a.m., paused it, and whispered to himself, "She's the last guest." But the file didn't end. It continued. And at the very end, the elevator doors opened. Inside there were 2 figures, one barefoot, one holding a phone, both staring at the camera. The reflection between them, empty, because the mirror wasn't needed anymore.
To release a ghost, you must return them to the place they last believed they were alive, not where they died, but where they were still becoming the dead. And if they've made a home inside you, you must carry them back yourself. Aeon visited the monk again. He didn't look surprised. "I was expecting you," he said, folding his hands in his lap. She sat across from him, eyes hollow. "Can it be undone?" she asked. He said nothing at first. Then, quietly, "No spirit loops without purpose. She's replaying her death because it was never seen, never mourned, never named." "She wants me to finish it." "No," the monk corrected. "She wants you to witness it." He prepared the ritual. Nothing flashy. No gongs, no smoke. Just 3 things: a mirror, a candle, and a name spoken aloud. Shin Mi Suk. You must bring her back to the threshold, the last space she believed herself alive. "The elevator?" Han guessed. He nodded. "But you must go alone, and you must not break eye contact, not with her, not with yourself." "And if I do?" The monk looked away. "Then the loop remains, and she won't be the only one repeating it." Haeon returned to Luxview that night. The candle lit, the mirror polished, the name written on rice paper, folded into her coat. She entered the elevator at 2:09 a.m. Floor 1, destination 9. She stood in the center, candle at her feet, mirror propped against the corner wall. The doors closed. The elevator began to rise, and so did the silence. At floor 3, the lights flickered. At floor 5, the air grew cold. At floor 7, her reflection blinked at the wrong time. She swallowed. At floor 8, a shadow appeared behind her in the mirror. And then, ding! Floor 9. The doors opened. The hallway was gone. In its place, peeling walls, flickering fluorescence, the antiseptic rot of a place long buried beneath concrete. She stepped forward. The hallway led to a single door. It bore no number, but she knew. Room 907. She pushed it open. Inside, a metal-framed bed, a looped curtain, a rusted ceiling vent, and in the corner, a woman facing the wall. White gown, bare feet, shoulders trembling. Haeon stepped forward, heart hammering. "Mi Suk," she whispered. The woman turned, and for the first time, Haeon saw her face. It was hers, but older, sadder, eyes rimmed in purple, lips cracked, neck ringed in bruises. The candle flickered. The mirror vibrated. Haeon reached into her coat and unfolded the paper. "Shin Mi Suk," she said aloud. The woman blinked once, and then she screamed. Not a scream of rage, but a scream of recognition, of pain trapped too long in silence, of a name finally spoken. The walls around them began to shudder. Mirrors cracked in the corners of the room. Reflections spilled out like smoke, twisting with faces, old tenants, lost guests, all of them looping, all of them whispering, "She never left, she never left, she never left." Haeon dropped the paper. kneeled, whispered one final time, "You can go now." The woman stepped forward, reached for the mirror, touched it, and in that moment, she did not vanish, she split. Her image faded from the reflection and poured into the mirror like liquid shadow. The room stopped trembling. The reflections stilled. The mirror went dark. When Heian opened her eyes, she was alone. The candle had gone out. The elevator stood open behind her, waiting. She stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby. The mirror reflected only her, and for the first time in weeks, her smile returned when she did. But just as the doors began to close, a small, slow handprint appeared in the mirror, tiny, childlike. She turned sharply. No one was behind her. The elevator descended. She never told anyone about that handprint, or about the faint echo she sometimes hears in the shower, or the blurred TikTok draft that appears in her phone every week at 2:14 a.m. without fail. Because some rituals don't end. They rest. They pause until the next name is forgotten and the next mirror is uncovered. Some doors close gently, others slam again and again, because something inside refuses to stay buried. And just when you think it's over, the elevator moves again. Because the 9th floor was never a place, it was a cycle. Haun thought it was over. She really did. For a few days, everything was still. The apartment felt empty in a peaceful way. The air no longer carried whispers. The mirrors stayed quiet. The elevator obeyed. She even filmed herself again. A soft morning video. Curtains drawn, tea in hand. She uploaded it just like before, and for a moment, it felt like the beginning. Until she played the clip back and noticed something behind her reflection. A shape. Not Misuk. Not even herself. But a child-sized blur, standing still, watching her from the corner of the mirror. And worse, the elevator had stopped opening on her floor. No matter what button she pressed, it always took her to 9. Even if she started on 9, even if she didn't press anything, it would always take her to 9. That night, she filmed a live stream. She needed proof. She needed someone, anyone, to see this wasn't over. "I tried to finish it," she whispered into the front camera. "But she's not the only one trapped." The lights flickered behind her. In the comments, people noticed first. "Your mirror moved. There's a kid behind you. Something's climbing the wall. Stop the stream." The live feed cut off. She hadn't touched anything. The next morning, the security guard returned. Not Choi. A new one. Young, unbothered. She asked about the elevator. "Sometimes it sticks," he said. "Always on floor 9. "Nobody else notices?" The guard shrugged. "Nobody else lives on 9 right now." She stopped sleeping. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hands trembling. One night, the elevator doors opened on their own, and the hallway beyond was no longer hers. It was wet, walls dripping, lights flickering with a pulsing hum, like a hospital underwater. She stepped back.
The mirror inside the elevator began to ripple. Not crack, not fog, ripple. And from within the glass, a face pressed forward. Not Misuk, not even herself, but a child-sized blur, morphing, a hybrid of everyone who had ever lived in room 907. She ran, but no matter where she turned, the elevator was waiting. Even in the stairwell, even in the basement, always open, always reflective, and always ascending. At 2:14 a.m., she found herself back in the elevator. She didn't remember getting in. She didn't remember closing the door. But the candle from the ritual was lit again, glowing on the floor. The mirror was full, and her reflection was speaking, but she wasn't. She heard the words in her own voice. You thought a ritual could fix this. You thought a name was enough. But I was never the only one. Haun shook her head. No, I let you go. The reflection smiled. You let one part of me go. Behind her, the elevator doors opened. But this time, there was no hallway. Just stairs, spiraling downward, and a soft, rhythmic sound. A rope swinging gently from the ceiling. The lights inside the elevator blinked out. When they returned, she wasn't alone. Figures lined the mirrored walls, all in white gowns, all barefoot. Some had no eyes. Some were just static. Some were her. The elevator ascended again, but it didn't stop at 9. It kept going. 10, 11, 12, 13. Then it stopped. No chime, no ding, just silence. The mirror fractured, but didn't break. The figures leaned in. One whispered, "Welcome home." Haun awoke. She was in her bed. Sunlight poured in. Her phone was beside her, charged, silent. She opened it. The TikTok app had deleted itself. All her footage was gone. Her account blank. But in the audio files, there was one unsaved clip, a voice loop recorded at 2:14 a.m. the night before. Her own voice, soft, smiling, whispering. Check in, ascend, arrive, and loop. She looked into the bedroom mirror. She was smiling, and this time, the reflection smiled first. The eyes in the mirror are not always yours. Sometimes they look back too fast. Sometimes they forget how to blink. And sometimes they're just watching. Because when a ghost enters through the eyes, it doesn't want to possess you. It wants to become you. The woman living in room 907 looked like Hyun. She walked the same way, spoke in the same tone, cooked the same meals, even resumed posting videos. But something was different. Her followers noticed first. The comments came slowly at first. You look tired. Your smile feels off in this one. Anyone else think she's copying her old videos frame by frame? Then the messages became sharper. You blink out of sync. There is no sound when you breathe. At 0:14, your reflection doesn't smile. And the most disturbing, you don't have a shadow. Mr. Choi watched the new footage from home. Even in retirement, he couldn't stay away. The video was simple. Hyun brushing her hair in front of the mirror. But she wasn't reflected. At least, not completely. Her body was. Her face was not. The glass showed a blank space where her eyes should be. Just smooth skin. Like her identity had been edited out. He replayed the clip, paused it at 2:14 a.m. Her head turned slightly, and the face in the mirror turned before her. Too early. Watching. Leading. In the Lux View lobby, the concierge greeted her like always. "Good morning, Miss Yoon." But she didn't answer, just smiled. Too long. Teeth clenched behind lips that didn't quite move. He shivered. After she walked past, he muttered to himself, "Why does she feel like she's remembering how to be human?" That night, Hyun live-streamed again. This time, she didn't speak at all. Just stared into the camera for 5 minutes, unblinking. Not once. The comments spiraled. "Someone screen record this. What is she becoming? Why is she mirroring my movements while I watch? Her eyes aren't reflecting light anymore." The stream cut out. Her phone shut down. But the front camera stayed glowing, dim, pulsing like a heartbeat. Upstairs, in room 907, her mirrors were restored. No more black cloth, no tape, no cracks. She cleaned them nightly, polished the glass until they hummed. Sometimes she stood before one for hours, just smiling, or twitching her head slowly, like a puppet trying to reset its angle. At 2:14 a.m., she rode the elevator. Security footage showed her alone, but in the reflection, there were 2 versions. One standing, the other swaying, neck bruised, eyes white. As the doors closed, the reflection turned its head and mouthed, "I remember now." Mr. Choi visited the building again. He needed to see her, to know. He watched her exit the elevator, barefoot, dressed in white. The exact image from the original haunting. She walked past him, didn't blink, didn't speak, just turned and whispered, "I liked being you." That night, the mirror in the lobby cracked, right down the middle. No impact, no tremor, just a fracture, like something beneath the surface was unfolding. Back upstairs, Hyun recorded a new video. No music, no hashtags, just her sitting in silence. The camera zoomed slowly, her face calm, expressionless. Then her eyes changed. Not color, not size, just orientation. They no longer belonged to her. They belonged to everyone who came before, every guest who looped, every tenant who vanished, every ghost who watched too long. They stared into the lens and whispered with her mouth, "Do you want to check in?" The comments were turned off. The video couldn't be paused. And if you tried to scroll away, the app crashed. The next morning, the woman in room 907 walked to the elevator. The lobby camera caught her smile, but the mirror inside the elevator reflected nothing. Just an empty box, rising, alone.
Hauntings don't always scream. Some sit quietly, behind polished glass. They learn your smile, your voice, your timing. And when they've learned enough, they step forward, and you step back. Room 907 is no longer listed. If you check the LuxView website, it skips from 906 to 908. Ask the leasing office, and they'll smile politely. Say it's under renovation or used for storage. But someone lives there. At least, someone answers the door. The concierge swears she still passes by in the mornings. "Ms. Yoon," he says, trying to stay cheerful. But her eyes never meet his. They flick just to the side, as if watching something walk beside her. He stopped greeting her weeks ago. Now he just nods and avoids the mirrors. The new security guard quit after only 3 weeks. He told the manager he didn't like what the camera showed at night. Elevator goes up at 2:14 a.m. Nobody ever presses the button. Sometimes it opens on the 9th floor when the building's empty. Sometimes the girl walks in twice, but only one version walks out. They deleted his keycard the same day, but not the footage. Nobody wants to watch it. On her social media, the account is still active, now named @LoopedGuest. The videos post at the same time every night. The same format, the same room. Just a girl, standing in silence. The captions say, "Room 907, night blank." The number goes up night after night, hundreds now, thousands maybe, but the face never changes and the eyes never blink. Occasionally, someone tries to interact. They leave a comment or tag her in a video. Sometimes she replies, always with the same message, "I'm still here." No one has seen Hyun in person for months. Her phone's GPS still pings from LuxView. Deliveries get picked up from the lobby. Receipts get signed in her name. But when someone tried to visit her, a distant cousin who hadn't been watching the news, the concierge stopped her at the door. She moved out, he said. But her door is still decorated. Just leave the package. The building takes care of it. The cousin looked up. The hallway lights flickered, and at the far end of the hall, she saw someone standing outside 907, watching her. Barefoot, white gown, hair covering her face. The cousin left without saying goodbye. She deleted the TikTok app that night, but the video still autoplayed, even when her phone was off. In a downtown internet cafe, 2 teenagers tried to record a prank. They recreated the original Room 907 footage and uploaded it under a ghost hunting hashtag. At 2:14 a.m., the power cut out. When the lights came back on, the mirror across the cafe showed only one of them. The other was inside the reflection, smiling. Mr. Choi doesn't talk about the building anymore. He moved to the countryside, disconnected his phone, burned the old security tapes. But some nights he still dreams of the elevator, still hears the ding, still sees the doors opening on floor 9.
even when he's nowhere near a building, even when he's not asleep. You might forget this story. You might scroll away, mute the voice, close the app, and tell yourself it's just fiction. But late at night, when you catch your reflection move a little too slowly, when your smile comes half a second too early, when your camera opens by itself at 2:14 a.m., ask yourself, did I just see myself? Or did something else remember how to wear your face? Because room 907 never really needed you to move in. It just needed you to watch. And once you've seen her, she's already behind the glass. Check in, ascend, arrive, loop, and whisper with her voice, I'm still here.